Morning students, how are you all? I hope you are all fine and doing good. So students, today we have come up with a new chapter taken from the book An Alien Hand, and the name of the chapter is The Cop and the Anthem. Okay, so here we will be learning about the cop and the anthem. Okay, so before starting, let me tell you what is the meaning of the cop and the anthem. So here the cop represents a police officer. A cop is a police officer, and an anthem is the life of the Soapy, means a particular character by the name Soapy. He has got such a life which leads him to difficulty. So here the word anthem, it represents how the life Soapy had and how he wanted to transform himself into another life. So here we will be learning about all the difficulties and all the hopes and desire which Soapy had faced and how he wants to transform his life into betterment. Fine. So now let us have a look. So here you will see in the beginning of the chapter a boy by the name Soapy. He is seen sitting at a park, and it is the winter season where all the leaves had fallen into the ground. There was no hope, no desires, nothing left for Soapy, because he had just been released from Blackwell's Island, which is the name of a jail. So this story tells us about the life of the person by the name Soapy. So since he had been out of the jail, he had been released from the jail, he had nowhere to go. So he was seen sitting at one of the corner of the park on a bench, and he was thinking about his future plans. So now let us start the chapter. Okay. The Cop and the Anthem summary in English. Now see here. The signs of approaching winter were there. So the chapter starts with the signs of approaching winter. So what are the signs of approaching winter? It was the falling of the leaves and turning it into golden. Next, birds had begun to fly south. So the birds, they started migrating towards the south, since now here it is winter, and in south they would find warm climate. So wherever there is warm climate, the birds migrate themselves into that particular region or that particular place. So the birds had begun to fly south. People seemed to want new warm clothes. It was winter season approaching, and the people started purchasing new warm clothes. The dead leaves covered the ground. The dead leaves completely covered the ground. This approaching winter made Soapy restless. Right? This approaching winter made Soapy restless. That means he was not happy and satisfied, because he had no home and no warm clothes. Since he had just been released from jail, he had no home and no warm clothes. So he is in requirement of a home and warm clothes, but he had none with him. So what he had to do? So let's find out. Yet he hoped to find a comfortable lodging for the winter. So he planned to have a comfortable lodging for the winter. That means the place where he can stay comfortably. He hoped to spend winter's 3 months in the prison on Blackwell's Island. So what did he decide? He decided to get into Blackwell's Island, which is a prison. He wants to get into the prison for 3 months and spend his winter days there. But how is he going to get back into the prison? He had been to prison several times with that purpose. Okay. So he had already been imprisoned several times. So now he wants to think about coming up with some plans in order to be arrested. So, once again he made his small plans for going to the island. So, once again he started thinking about some plans in order that he could go back to the island. That means he could go back to the jail by the name Blackwell's Island. Is it clear to everyone? Okay, next. Okay, so now Soapy had to think out of a plan to get arrested by the cops. Okay, so what was his first plan? Soapy's first plan was to have some good dinner at some fine restaurant. Then he would say that he had no money. A cop would be called. He would be taken to a judge. The judge would send him to prison for 3 months. Okay, so what was his plan? His first plan was to have some good dinner. He thought of entering into a fine restaurant where he could have some good dinner. And when it is the time to pay for his bill, he would say that he had no money. Then what would happen? The manager would call a cop, would call a policeman. Then that cop would take him to the jail and would present him before the judge. And what would judge do? The judge would send him to prison for 3 months. So he thought of this plan. Okay, so now let's see, did his plan really work? Then he entered a restaurant. The best food and the best people in their best clothes appeared here every evening. So he entered into a fine restaurant where good people in their best clothes appears every evening. That means every evening many people in fine dresses come to have their meals at that particular restaurant. So he tried to enter into it. Unluckily, the head waiter saw his broken old shoes while he was entering the restaurant. He quietly but quickly put him out. Okay, so but what happened? Unluckily, the head waiter, or you can say the manager of the restaurant saw a man entering into the restaurant who had broken shoes, who had torn shoes, and his robes were untidy. Okay, his clothes were untidy. So the manager or the head waiter, what did he do? He didn't shout at Soapy. Instead, he pulled him out. He took him out of the restaurant, and he quickly told him to leave away from there. That means Soapy was not allowed to dine into that restaurant. Clear? So he was sent out very quickly. Now, see here. You could see here clearly that this is the manager and this is Soapy. Okay, look at his robes. Look at his robes. And look at his torn shoes. Okay, this is his torn shoe and this is his dirty robes. He looks very, overall, he looks very unfit and untidy. So the manager, he warned him and asked him not to enter to the restaurant. Clear? Now see next. Okay. Now Soapy entered another restaurant. Okay, this is his first plan. So he entered another restaurant. He was able to get food. Okay, he entered another restaurant which was not very hi-fi. So he was able to find some food to eat. After that, when it was the time to pay the bill, he announced that he had no money. He himself requested the waiter to call the cop. So when it was his time to pay the bill, he said that I have no money with me. So I request you to please call a cop and get me arrested. Fine. But what happened? Was he really arrested? Instead, the waiter threw him out on the hard street outside. Thus, his first plan to reach the prison didn't work. Then the manager, what did he do? Instead of calling the cop and arresting him, the waiter threw him out on the hard street outside. They take cop Soapy and they threw him out of the restaurant. But they did not call the cop. So, his first plan failed in this way. Okay? See here. You can see this is a restaurant. Okay? And these are the waiters. And this is Soapy. The Soapy had been dragged. Okay? You can see the Soapy had been dragged out of the restaurant and being thrown on the hard road outside. And so Soapy's first plan failed. Clear? Okay. Now next. Now see here. Okay, so now his first plan failed. But Soapy did not give up hope. He thought of making some other plan. And what was his second plan? The second plan was that there was a big shop with a wide glass window. Okay, there was a big shop and there was wide glass window. Soapy took up a big stone and broke the glass. What did Soapy do? He carried a stone. He picked up a stone lying on the road and he threw it inside the shop. And the glass was broken, completely broken into fine pieces. People came running. There was a cop also. So people, they come running to see what's going on there. Fine. So Soapy, he could even see that there was a cop standing somewhere. Then when the cop investigated that what's the matter and who tried to break the glass, Soapy admitted breaking the glass. And Soapy said that it was me who had broken the glass. Clear? Why did he say so? He said in order to be arrested and taken to the jail. But what happened? But the cop's mind would not consider Soapy guilty. But the cop's mind says that Soapy cannot be guilty. Why did he think so? Why did the cop think so? Because men who break windows or glasses do not stop there to talk to cops. So it is obvious that when we do anything mistake or when we do anything crime, we try to run away from the crime scene. We try to escape ourselves or we try to hide ourselves somewhere and not confront the policeman. Fine? Instead of confronting the policeman, we try to hide away or we try to run away from the crime scene. But here was just the opposite. What happened here? Soapy, he himself admitted that I am the one who had broken the glass. So this was the reason why the cop could not consider Soapy guilty. Fine? Because the person who commits crime run away as fast as they can. Okay? So the cop did not arrest Soapy. Thus his plan of reaching the prison also failed. So even his second plan failed completely. Clear? Now let's see what happened next. Okay. Now, a fear caught Soapy. No cops would arrest him. Now, a fear caught Soapy. There was a fear in Soapy's heart. What was the fear? he feared that I would not be sent to jail. No cops would arrest me. And if cops won't arrest me, I won't be sent to jail. And if I won't be sent to jail, how am I going to survive the winter days? Okay, so he began fearing this. He thought of something else to try. Then he thought of some other plans to try. He came to a cop standing in front of a big theater. And as he walked away, he found a big theater. And there was a cop standing right in front of it. What did Soapy do? She began to shout as if she had too much to drink. Okay, then what did he do? He started shouting as if he had drunk a lot. He is completely drunk. He acted as if he was completely drunk and he started shouting. The cop saw him. Okay, the cop saw Soapy shouting. What did the cop do? The cop turned his back on Soapy. So instead of proceeding towards Soapy, he turned his back on Soapy. Okay, and what did he do? He said to someone standing near him, "It's one of those college boys. He won't hurt anything. We have orders to let them shout." Fine. So he said to someone standing nearby, the cop said to someone standing nearby that this boy who is shouting must be one of the college boys. These college boys, they only shout and they won't hurt anything. They won't hurt anyone. They will not harm anyone. So we have got the order to let them shout as much as they want. We should not arrest them because they only create noise. They do not create disturbance. They do not make any violence. So we are not given the authority to arrest them. So this boy must be one of the college boys. So he wants to shout. He is free to shout. Okay. So here the cop was referring to Soapy as a college boy. So here the cop was thinking that Soapy was a college boy. So he did not arrest him. Clear? Next. Soapy was getting more and more restless. Okay. Now Soapy is becoming desperate. He is becoming restless. In desperation, she took away the umbrella of a man buying a newspaper. Okay, so in desperation, in great frustration, in anger, what did he do? He directly go and he pulled out the umbrella of one man who was purchasing a newspaper. The man followed Soapy, and Soapy, he started walking away from there, and the man followed Soapy. He asked Soapy to give him back his umbrella. Then he caught Soapy and he asked Soapy to give him his umbrella. Soapy asked him to call the cop standing at the corner. And then Soapy, he said, "I will give you only if you do me a favor." What was the favor? You can see there is a cop standing nearby. Please call him and get me arrested. Okay, this was the demand of Soapy. He said, if you claim that this is your umbrella, I will give it to you only if you call that cop and get me arrested. But it turned out that the man himself had stolen the umbrella. But the man did not call the cop because the man himself was a thief. He excuse me. He himself had stolen the umbrella. So it means that that umbrella was not his own umbrella. He had stolen umbrella of someone else, which Soapy had taken away now. Okay, so he feared that if he called the cop, even that man would be arrested. So that man, he didn't call the cop. He offered to give it to Soapy. And what did he say? Instead he said, no, I'm not going to call it call the cop. Instead, I am going to give this umbrella to you. I am offering it to you. You can take it away. I don't need this umbrella. Clear? And the man, he went away. He didn't call the cop. Then Sophie threw away the umbrella. So Sophie grew more furious. She became more wild, and in desperate, he threw away the umbrella. Fine? Next. Now Sophie gave up all hopes of being arrested that day. And that particular day, he had completely lost hope of being arrested. He thought that he would never ever be arrested again. He began to move towards Madison Square. He was going home, although it was only a seat in the park. At a quiet corner, he stopped. So now, Sophie had given away all hopes of being arrested. He began to move towards Madison Square. Okay, like we can say, Baliwala Chowk or Ram Mandir Chowk. Okay, that is the name of that place. So there was a particular place by the name Madison Square. So he started moving towards it. Where was he going then? He was going home. But we know Sophie had no home. So which home was he talking about? He was talking about a seat in the park. So which was his home? His home was the park, and his bed was a bench in the park. So he meant to go and rest there. Okay. So as he was walking, at some place in the corner, he stopped. Next. There was an old childhood home. Okay, there was his old childhood home. Sweet music came to Sophie's ear and seemed to hold him there. So as he was moving from the Madison Square, he could see his childhood home. That means when Sophie was young, he was a child, he was a kid, he resides at Madison Square. Fine? And from that house, sweet music came to his ear, and it seems to hold him there. Okay, and Sophie, he stopped there and he started listening to the music. He thought of his childhood days, so he began remembering his childhood days. In the church, he had mothers, flowers, and high hopes. So he started remembering his past, that how beautiful his past were. He was also a schoolboy. He loved going to school. He loved going to church, and in church there was his mother, there were flowers and high hopes. Okay, when his mother was alive, the mother loved Sophie so much, and Sophie was having high hopes that he would become something big, he would do something great in his life. Okay, there were friends and clean thoughts and clean clothes. So when he was a kid, he was having many friends, he was having clean thoughts, and he was having clean clothes, which he does not have now. There was a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. So as soon as he saw his old home, all those memories flashed back, and he had a sudden and a wonderful change in his soul. And what was that? He saw how he had fallen. Then he started remembering, he started imagining that how he had fallen into darkness. He was having bright hope and bright future. But what made him a criminal? He began thinking about him. Okay, he started thinking about it, that how he had fallen into darkness. He started thinking that he had wasted the time. He started remembering his wrong desires, his dead hopes. Okay, when he was a kid, he was having high hopes. But as he grew into adulthood, he had lost his hope. His hopes were dead. So he was all remembering all those and the lost power of his mind, and that how did he lost his mind. Fine. Okay, see here. So this is Sophie, okay, and this is Madison Square. This place is Madison Square, and see, he is looking at the windows of a house. So this was Sophie's house, okay. So it flashback, he went to flashback that he was a schoolboy, okay. He loved the life which he was leading. He had mother, he had flowers in church, he had friends, good clothes, good hope, good life. And he also started remembering that how he had fallen, that how he had become a criminal. Clear? Then now let us see what happened next. So, when he had a sudden change in himself, he decided to fight the change of his life. Okay, now he wanted to make a man of himself again. So now he wanted to become a good man again. There was still time. He was thinking that I still have time, because Sophie was young enough, because Sophie was very young at that time. Okay, that means when that transformation came in his mind, okay, that means he wanted to transform his life again. He was very young, he was a young man. So he thought, I have much life with me now, so I can change my life. He would again find his old purpose in life. He thought that I should go and I should achieve all those hopes which I was having. The sweet music had changed him completely. He decided to find a new work the very next day. He thought that tomorrow only I will go and I will find some work for myself, and I will work and I will be a good man. The new thought had begun to make a firm hold on his mind. So this new thought started making a strong hold in his mind. Okay, next. Then suddenly what happened? Okay, see, he was looking and he was thinking. And can you see this cop behind? Okay, this cop. Now let us see what role is this cop going to play now. Okay. So just then Sophie felt a hand on his arm. Okay, so just as he was thinking that tomorrow I will go and find a work for myself, right at that moment only he found a strong hold on his arm. What was that hold? वो हाथ किसका था? It was a cop. Okay, so it was a cop. So what is cop doing here now? He asked Sophie what he was doing there. So as Sophie was looking at the window, the cop doubted that he must be a thief. Okay, so he is planning to get into the house and make a robbery. Clear? Actually, Sophie was thinking about his past and that how he would change his life, but the thing was completely unknown to the cop. Cop was thinking that perhaps he is making plan to make a robbery into that house. So the cop pulled him tight, and cop asked him that what are you doing here? So now Sophie, full of his new strength, he began to argue with him, and now Sophie had full of hopes and desires. Okay, so now he started explaining that I have been released from jail and now I want to change my life. So I am looking at that house because earlier when I was a young, in my olden days, I used to stay here and this and that. He started telling up all his stories, but cop did not believe in him because he had bad record. He was a criminal. Okay, since he had bad record, the cop would not believe him. Cop thought that he is going to make some plans. He is cooking up some stories. Clear? So the cop took Sophie with him. Where did he take Sophie? He took Sophie to the jail. And next morning, the judge sentenced him 3 months prison to Blackwell's Island. And the next day, in the court, the judge sentenced Sophie to 3 months of prison on Blackwell's Island. That means she had been sentenced to 3 months prison. इससे अब jail हो गया. Okay, so now when Sophie was trying to change his life, he was held by the cop and taken and thrown into a jail. Clear? So, this is one of the best play, one of the best story. I particularly love this story very, very much. So, this chapter, this story is full of irony. Okay, irony means what we want and what we get in reverse. So, here the story of Soapy is completely an irony. Soapy, earlier he wanted to be in Blackwell's Island and spend his 3 months of winter season there, but he was not being arrested by the cop. And when he had tried to completely change his life, he was arrested. So, this shows irony. Okay, that means what we want and what we get. That means we get just the reverse of what we think and or what we want. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed the chapter. Okay, thank you for watching.